Well, now to our major business story for the day. The Ghanaian economy witnessed some significant growth in the third quarter of this year in terms of gross domestic product. Now, data released by the Ghana Statistical Service shows that it recorded a 6.6% growth over the same period for last year. Now, the growth can be described as substantial due to the fact that in September last year, the country posted some negative growth amid COVID. We want to share with you some infographics on the trend, starting with the quarter-on-quarter growth rates, some major highlights, as well as the top 5 drivers of the growth in this particular graphic that you could find on your screen. And of course, as you could see there on the quarter-on-quarter seasonally adjusted GDP growth rate for the third quarter was 1.6% in this year. Now, this means that the value of goods and services produced in the third quarter of this year grew by 1.6% over the value recorded in the second quarter of 2021. So that's a shift in value terms in the span of just 3 months. And you can see on your screens once again the nominal value, the monetary value of the GDP growth rate in the span of the third and fourth quarters. For the very third quarter of 2020, that was last year, we saw a GDP estimate of 41 billion cedis. And of course, the growth rate in that regard dipped by 0.08. Now, when it moved down to the quarter 4 of last year once again, of course, we had a growth rate increase marginally by 0.8, with the GDP, having to inch up, the estimate inching up to 41 billion cedis, 498, in that particular regard. Now, the interesting part is with this year, because if you're looking at the first quarter of this year, it inched up once again by 1.1% in terms of the gross domestic product. It continued to increase in the very second quarter to 42 billion cedis by 1.2%. growth rate in the very second quarter of this year. And of course, it also went up marginally once again in the third quarter of this year by 1.3%. Now, the key highlights to all this information that I'm sharing is that the quarter 3 GDP at current prices was estimated at 110 million cedis. The corresponding value recorded for quarter 3 2020 was 91. So you could see the difference there in terms of the marginal growth there. It also turns out in the very second paragraph for quarter 3 for the 2021 GDP growth rate increasing by 6.6%, which closed therefore in on the pre-COVID-19 expansion of the economy. So there we do have it. Having to experience marginal growth rate in the first, the second, and the third quarters of 2021 amidst the scourge of the coronavirus pandemic on each and every sector of Ghana's economy. We take a look at the agri sector on the very 6th point there, and it helps us understand the fact that agri and services sectors expanded, with the industry sector contracting by -2%. With the agri sector, we're looking at an expansion of 9.2%, and the services sector being 13.4% in that particular regard. We do know that amid COVID-19, Ghana recorded so much gains in the agri sector. The planting for food and jobs really helped in that nature, so as with the services sector. Now, the top 5 drivers of growth in this regard: the crops, including cocoa, which contributed to 9.8% growth rate, which is a 1.43% point contribution to growth. Education also was part of the top 5 drivers with a 24.2% growth rate. And of course, trade, repair vehicles, household goods all came in the third top drivers of growth by 9.7% growth rate, of course, contributing to Ghana's gross domestic product. So we did see, the particular sectors that really had an impact on our growth base in the first, second, and third quarters of this year. We could also talk of manufacturing in that regard, and information and communication, and mining and quarrying, all recording growth rates in their nominal margins there. So these are the figures we're getting from you regarding Ghana's GDP. We shall peruse them in our subsequent bulletins.